Girl, there's no cold open today. Tom, give us that music, please. We have another gift.
What? Why are you doing this to me?
So Casey and Kenzie and I have been working on this for a little while.
You
now,
sneaky...
I know. I met them on the road. This is a painting for you.
Do I have to start stretching
painted
now?
by an animal. I know, it's gorgeous. And I didn't open your letter. The letter will tell you the animal and they'll tell you more information.
Oh, so I think it's this way, actually.
Yeah. Read the thing real quick and give a little information on your animal.
Oh my God.
Mine was a monkey and they sent me the monkey prints.
Oh my God, are there pictures in here?
I think there are. I think there are. The look on your face.
I'm feeling very out of body right now.
Really?
This is like, I'm having a physical reaction. This is so
Because you got a monkey painting?
nice. Because the people are nice and thoughtful.
I know, it's so sweet.
Oh my God. Hi. I'm not going to read everything because this is between us, my best friends. Holly Mae is a monkey who painted this for me. She's a Guyanese squirrel monkey. And she's perfect.
Oh my God.
Let me see her prints.
Oh, you gotta tell the people. Wait, so the people who don't see that.
Her name is Holly Mae, and these are her handprints. She touched this in so many ways. Look at her.
I know. Oh, she's
Have you ever
beautiful.
seen anything so beautiful?
Never in my life.
Oh my
Never
God.
in my life.
Oh, there's a picture of us and my friends. Oh, cute. Look at her being so limber on a tree branch. Thank you all so much.
It's Casey and Kenzie. Thank you, you guys.
Thank you. This is really, and Holly Mae, these animals.
I know. These people are working overtime to send you paintings. I'm telling you, girl.
I wanted to have like a whole wall full.
Well, now here we go.
Crazy.
Great, here we go.
But I'm saying, like, I just said it in like a bingo.
I know.
Like, I thought it was just like you know what I mean?
Yep.
I thought it was like just friends hanging out, and I was like, I had sort of had this idea. I didn't think anyone was paying attention. Schwab was there. We were playing bingo. I didn't think anyone even heard what I said. This is so nice. Really, thank you all so much.
Isn't it beautiful?
How am I gonna like emotionally handle this?
You're gonna be okay.
And I don't have therapy this week.
Oh no.
I'm off this week from therapy, and I don't know how to like download all of this niceness. I'm having
You're gonna be okay. You just receive it. You say thank you.
You know what? That's a good idea.
You put it on a shelf.
Thank you. Look at these colors.
I know, they're beautiful.
Wow.
Oh, girl, we gotta remind the people that the merch store is live.
Yes, we have brand new merch if you're just learning about it right now, but it's on our website.
Yep.
We're super excited about it.
TrueCrimeObsessed.com. Click on the merch link and go look. We did a professional photo shoot and the photos are really good.
We had fun.
We both look really cute. We were listening to Taylor Swift.
The entire time. It was great. We had and hopefully that comes through, but also you're going to look amazing in the merch. Whatever you pick, you're going to look amazing.
Or maybe your coffee's just going to taste better because it's in that Bless That Mess mug.
You're going to look great holding the mug. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
and
you can't lose.
We did that keychain thing. We had a lot of nurses asking us for that badge holder thing.
A badge holder thing.
So the badge holder thing is there.
Yeah.
I'm just very happy about that.
It's really...
I love nurses.
Look, if the people are happy, I'm happy. That's
Me
all I
too.
want. That's all I want in this whole world.
All right, what are we doing today?
So this is one of our bonus episodes. Hi, I need to gently put this down. I don't want to like toss it. Like I
got one too, by the way. They sent one to me and it's so beautiful.
Is it so beautiful?
It's gorgeous, yeah.
They have like Secret Service for presents. Can I hire people to be
Look,
like,
the
don't
Secret Service
touch
is working
it.
overtime these days.
Are they? Hi, welcome to a bonus episode. We are full of surprises today here on TCO. So we are doing another episode of that show called The Florida Man Murders. We've done this before.
It's a dumb title, but it's a good show.
Yeah, it's season 1, episode 2.
Yes. And this is the murder of Mike and Missy MacIvor.
Yeah.
You can't have a bad day in the Keys. It's paradise found.
We could count on one hand the number of homicides we've had in that area.
Michael and Missy MacIvor, both around 30 years old, murdered, apparently execution style.
This was one of the most shocking murder cases in the Florida Keys. A young couple and their unborn child are killed brutally.
It was the worst homicide scene that I had been to.
I looked at Missy and Mike as the all-American family.
We just weren't sure whether Michael or Missy was the target.
They do this kind of stuff when it's thunder and lightning out because the cops don't come out.
The storm was a perfect cover for a killer.
There was a murderer on the loose, and people were searching for an answer.
They told him, you don't cooperate, you're going to go down for murder.
He left the evidence right there for us, and that was the mistake that cost him.
Can we just start by saying these names, Mike and Missy MacIvor? Like, what a fucking great names.
Yeah, it's not spelled like MacIvor, the guy, but it's pronounced that way.
Yeah.
We open in the Florida Keys. Everyone is talking about this area like it's perfect and nothing bad ever happens. And they clearly never watched Bloodline.
Oh, is that the Keys?
Key Largo.
Oh.
Or any. Yeah, I know it's fictional. I know it. But that's like Kyle Chandler and Norbert Leo Butz and Linda Cardellini. And
My
Sissy
friend Katie
Spacek.
Finneran is on that show.
adore that show.
Yeah.
But like that took place in the Keys and it was dark.
Yeah, well, the Florida Keys in real life is very nice. They say there's not very much crime. There's a little crime, but like not violent crime, certainly not murder, certainly not like to the extent that we are about to tell you about.
I mean, this
Like,
really
oh my
is,
God.
I'm avoiding the point because this is a truly horrifying case.
It's horrible. So we learn something important to the story.
On August 21st, 1991, Tavernier Key is slammed by a freak tropical storm that rattles residents overnight.
We get a lot of storms in the Upper Keys, but mostly they blow right over. But that night, unusually, we had hours and hours of pouring rain.
They get rainstorms there, but not like this. Like this was hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, and one of our victims, so our victims are Missy and Michael, like you said, and Michael's sister, Sharon, is here.
Yeah.
And she says, like, I had a gut feeling that something was wrong. She's like, maybe it was the storm. Maybe I was just feeling bad vibes
Because like, the next day was
dangerous.
quiet. It was like eerily quiet the next day.
She was like, something is really wrong. Because when there's a storm like that, especially in the Keys, everyone hunkers down. It's days. Like, it is a very eerie feeling.
It would be so scary to be near that much water and have there be a crazy storm like that. Like I feel claustrophobic just talking about it.
Yeah, it's really scary. I was in Puerto Rico soon after the hurricane.
Oh yeah.
Like a few months after, and it's wild to, again, because the same thing, it's the island.
Even
so
here, it's like there have been nights where there have been really bad rainstorms when I used to live way up near Inwood, and I would take the FDR, which is like it's the highway on the east side of the island, and it's very, very, very close to the river, and it floods. And
the FDR floods.
Scary.
It's like you could like swim in it.
It feels like the island is drowning. It's like it's scary to be that close to water in a storm.
And as scary as it is for us idiot East Coasters, this is Florida.
Right.
Like this shit is serious. And that's why Sharon's like, I just had a bad feeling. Maybe it was the storm because, like, it kind of is eerie and a little creepy when this happens anyway because, like, no one is out.
Yeah.
And everyone is sort of hunkering down. But unfortunately, Sharon's gut was spot on.
Screaming. We also learned that the Mike and Sharon's family is very close. They all live very close by. And the mom of Mike and Sharon and their brother James was trying to call Mike and Missy, and there was getting no answer. She called Sharon. Sharon, like, called one time, let it go to voicemail, got in her fucking car and went over there.
Because this is the next morning.
Yeah.
So now the next morning, everyone is checking in on their friends and loved ones, being like, how'd you guys do last night?
Well, and their co-workers, because Missy, we learned, is a third grade teacher at the local elementary school, and I just wrote her hero co-workers. Missy is 8 months pregnant. I don't know if we mentioned that.
I was just going to say, we have to talk about that.
8 months pregnant. And so when she doesn't show up to work, which, by the way, is her dream job, she jumps out of bed every morning, can't get to work fast enough.
Third grade teacher.
She loves it.
Missy's co-workers also become alarmed when she does not show up at the elementary school where she is a third grade teacher.
All the teachers went to the house. They saw Mike's feet on the ground. That's about all they could see. And they ran to the neighbor that lived next door. He came over and kicked the door open.
The neighbor, Bill, literally kicks the fucking door
down.
in. Like, he kicks the door
But, like, do that.
Do it.
Do that.
When you said on a recent episode, do the weird thing. Do the weird thing.
Yeah.
Kick the door down.
And then if nothing comes of it, okay. But at least you know. And if you know what I mean? Like, just
then at least
kick
you
the
know
door
that you
down.
have a neighbor who loves you enough to kick a door down.
Like,
you know what I mean?
And there are worse things.
I know. My neighbors, Juliana and Adrian, I feel like they'd kick the door down if they had to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They're not going to suffer fools.
Yanni and John Day would do the same thing, my neighbors.
Really?
Yeah.
We have dogs that came from the same farm. They might be brother and sister.
Cute.
So there's that bond. They would mostly be doing it to check on Golden.
Yeah. Autumn and Fiona did not come from the same place. But still, they're neighbors and friends.
Our floor, we're on the 4th floor of our building, is like a farm. Like one dog walks down the hall, they all run to the door.
Great.
I take my dog out at 4 a.m. I'm not always the favorite.
So you're the problem.
I'm the problem. I didn't ask their dogs to say good morning. You know what I mean?
Dogs say good morning.
They do. They say good morning.
In a whole bunch of ways.
And for some reason, people like that.
Yeah. Because it's a nice thing to be loved unconditionally. Yeah.
All right, moving on.
I have Holly Mae, my monkey. I have Gizmo, my otter friend.
It's true.
Talk about a farm. I am a menagerie.
You are.
And I couldn't be happier about
Nope.
it.
You are.
I'm filled with such like love and pride and gratitude about it. It's my favorite
filled
thing.
with Christ love.
Yes.
It's saved for anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah, it's Mandy Moore.
Yeah, it's so good. So Bill goes in and is horrified to find Mike and Missy dead in pools of blood in the house. He calls 911.
Yeah. And remember, Missy is pregnant. So
8 months. She's like very close to having the baby.
And this was a very brutal, horrifying scene.
Yeah.
Michael's face was taped up. He was beaten. He was strangled.
I mean, we don't get a lot of detail as to why that happened to him, because we're going to learn his death was at least pretty fast.
Yeah.
And the killer like taped his mouth, taped his eyes, but seemingly after he was already dead. So I don't really know why they did that. Detective Mark says it was the most brutal crime scene he'd ever seen.
Yeah. And Missy was murdered and she was also sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
But we learn that Michael and Missy were true soulmates. They absolutely loved each other. Everyone was like thrilled for them in their life. They had a lot of support and people just loved them.
I particularly love that Sister Sharon has so much nice things to say about Missy.
Yeah.
Like she like loved Missy. She loved her brother too.
Missy was bubbly, beautiful, very elegant, very sweet, and very vivacious. She had a very welcoming spirit. Our family loved Missy.
The whole family loved Missy. Sharon describes her brother Michael as just like big and handsome and charismatic and
funny, outgoing.
Funny. They, Missy and Michael met at a nightclub. They were introduced by Mike's brother somehow.
Yeah, I like that. To me, I know families like that are just like the siblings are out. The sibling sees someone, they're attractive, you're attractive. Hey, buy a round of shots, and next thing you know, they're married.
Yeah.
I know families like that, and they're super fun. Michael, interestingly enough, both of his parents worked in aviation, and Michael had a passion for flying planes. Can't relate. But he started flying at 13 years old, which is like, follow your dream, follow your bliss. Why is a 13-year-old flying a plane? I
don't know. Like by 17, he's rebuilding airplane engines in the family garage.
I just want to know like how, because I love that he's getting the knowledge early. I love that. But I'm really asking logistically, how do you do that? How do you learn at 13 years old? Like, obviously you're being supervised.
Yeah, and like if his dad's a pilot, they probably know people down at the airstrip. It's one of those.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you when we were in North Carolina once, Ben and Julie, Steve's brother and his wife, took us to the coolest barbecue. It was so authentic. It was on an airstrip.
Oh my God.
Like in a field. And it was the best barbecue I've ever had. People literally fly in from all around the country on their little planes to eat barbecue at this little place.
Whoa.
Yeah, and like the planes are landing and taking off.
Is it loud?
Not really.
Cool. I mean, it kind of can't be, but to me, my brain doesn't understand how it's not loud.
How it couldn't be.
But that's cool.
It was like it's the thing about airplanes. It's like there's something about, I was thinking about this, like even helicopters, like the ability to actually fly a thing
is crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I made this point on another podcast that, do you know that Leonardo da Vinci, there are drawings of helicopters that Leonardo da Vinci was an artist and a scientist, and he was conceiving the helicopter in like the 1400s.
Really?
Yeah. And they could have been functional. People recently tried to like make the designs, and it turns out what he was doing, it would have been too heavy, but the mechanics of how it works is right.
Whoa.
Like he was conceiving the helicopter in the 1400s.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see that one drawing and I'll raise you. People always say that like, there's no way dragons exist. And that's fine.
Maybe.
But you know that there are like drawings and stories of dragons all around the world from like centuries ago. Where it's like, well, how did someone in this country communicate centuries ago with someone in
from
another
that country?
So like,
Da
what
Vinci's
are they
helicopter
seeing?
is what I think.
You know what? That's where I was going with it. And now it makes a lot of sense.
Well,
the
they traveled
final
by helicopter.
Piece of the puzzle has fallen into place. And I can go to bed.
Yeah.
Knowing
I'm really glad to have solved that mystery for you. And everybody.
And I'm just saying, like, obviously people can have the same kind of imagination all over the world, but it is interesting where it's like, how'd they know about this?
Yeah.
All over the place.
I know, it's true.
I don't know. So they're both really motivated, family-driven people, Michael and Missy, right?
Yes.
So Mike and Missy settle down in Tavernier Key.
Yeah.
Mike and Missy buy their dream home in Tavernier Key, a community for pilots.
A lot of pilots had homes there because it was a priceless gem to be able to have your own airstrip in Tavernier and park your planes under your home and be next to the airstrip.
Their house was on the landing strip. So, like, they could park their plane right outside their back door.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
It is wild. Sorry, I'm chuckling because the landing strip is the strip club in Friday Night Lights.
Oh, is that right?
Mindy's dancing down at the landing strip.
I will notably, the people in this episode don't say landing strip. They say, like, airstrip or something.
Oh, sure.
They don't, like, they try not to say landing strip.
The landing strip. Anyway.
Yeah. You can't not,
I can't hear
you can't
it
not think
without
about it now.
thinking about Friday Night Lights.
I mean, absolutely.
So May 12th, 1990, Mike and Missy get married.
Backyard wedding. How great is that?
And everyone, it was like a party. Everyone loves them. Loves them individually, but is also really rooting for them.
Yeah, and this is when Missy gets her dream job at Key Largo Elementary School. She loves the kids. And then somebody says she was a magnet for kids, but also adults. Like, everyone just, loved her.
Yeah. So they get married, and a year later, Missy gets pregnant, and it's a boy.
Yeah.
And they really wanted a big family, so they're really, really excited. Like,
five kids.
5 kids was their goal.
Oof.
And things really could not be going better for them. They were happy. Everyone around them was happy.
The week they were murdered, they were putting the finishing touches on the nursery. How tragic is that?
I know. And the murders, of course, are scaring everybody.
Yeah.
Because
there's literally a murderer on the loose.
Right. No one knows what happened. Why were they targeted? And if so, why? What is going on?
And it's just a small community where these things don't happen. So now if it's happened, how and who and why?
Yeah. And the thing is, remember the big storm that happened?
Yeah.
That big storm means that there are no witnesses. You can't talk to witnesses because everyone was inside.
Yep. And it was loud, so nobody heard anything.
It's a perfect night for someone horrible to get away with an awful thing. So they focus on the crime scene and the evidence inside the house.
Yeah. Mike was killed in the living room. Again, his face was wrapped up in tape. They say he'd been hit with a long piece of metal that was wrapped in a towel, and his neck had been crushed. Trigger warning, this is really bad.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Mike had been attacked in the living room, killed him right there.
His face had been wrapped up, and Mike had been hit with the long piece of metal with the towel around it, and his neck had been crushed.
Based on the autopsy results, it appeared Missy had been strangled.
Missy had been strangled. They say they found semen on her body that, when tested, did not belong to Michael. So they determined that she'd been raped.
And the DNA was not in the system, so they can't match it to anyone just yet.
They point out that it's 1990, so the database isn't very big. There's not a lot to compare it to. It's very new, but it doesn't match anybody currently in the system.
And so because, you just said, they were putting finishing touches on the nursery, they were doing a lot of renovations on this house.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of tools around, ladders outside.
Well, and that's kind of a big deal because there was a ladder leaning against the house. We see a crime scene photo, and it's going up to a second floor patio that is off one of the rooms. And they think that is how the killer must have gotten in because if you think about Sharon, the sister's going to say over and over again, my brother was big. How could a person get in there and subdue both of them? The killer must have surprised them somehow.
Yeah, right.
And so it seems like maybe he got into the upstairs while they were downstairs and was able to surprise because Mike was in the living room. Missy was in another room altogether.
Yeah. So they're doing all these renovations, and there's a boot print. And so their first person of interest is the handyman, Larry Hirth.
Yeah.
So the cops speak to Larry, and he completely cooperates.
He's a wreck.
Devastated. He hands them over DNA. He's not a match on anything, but his prints are all over the house. And he's like, because I'm all over the house.
Yeah, I'm there all the time.
I'm renovating the house. My prints are going to be everywhere.
What a nightmare situation. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's got an alibi. The alibi totally checks out. Thank God. Larry's not the guy.
Yeah, they call it's an ironclad alibi. So he's probably home with his family hunkering down.
Exactly.
But there is this very suspicious clue that they find.
An address book with the pages ripped out has been left behind by the killer.
And why would somebody tear these pages out of an address book?
Could it be that the killer's information was in that address book? Or did they take it to send a message that they are going after more victims?
All of the B pages are ripped out.
Oh my God.
Which is really scary because Sharon's like, my last name starts with a B.
Her last name at the time started
with a B. Yeah. You hear this and it's all the B pages. Does that ring a bell? And Sharon's like, yes.
Well, and Sharon said, because they're saying, was that the killer's own information that they were removing? Or was the killer saying, I'm going after all these people whose information I just took? Because it's an old school address book with handwritten addresses and stuff,
And so they check everything out and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's still really creepy.
It's weird.
And we don't know why. We don't know if Michael or Missy ripped it out. We don't know why all of the B's were just ripped out. And it's just unsettling.
Yeah, they also do say that maybe it could have been a red herring to throw the cops off.
I doubt it.
This guy doesn't seem fucking smart enough.
No.
Guess what? We figure out who it is eventually.
Fuck this guy. So the cops are like, okay, this must have been a targeted attack then. It wasn't a random attack.
Yes. And we learned that the phone lines were cut. Children who only grew up in an age of cell phones, there was a time when this was a thing. Mm-hmm. When if people were going to do a home invasion, they would cut the lines to the phones and then you would have no way of communicating with the outside world.
Right.
How, I forgot about this because it's been decades since this has been a thing, but how utterly terrifying to like think that you run to the room and you're going to call 911 and you pick it up and the phone is
dead. And the phone's dead. Yeah. I mean, they also, if you think about it, really, like, people who make horror movies had to completely figure out how to get around that.
Yeah.
Because that used to be such a trope in horror movies. Oh, the phone's dead. Oh, this or whatever. And then when they couldn't really do that anymore because like who uses a landline anymore?
Yeah.
Then they had to get around like, oh, the charger's not working.
Right.
Oh no, like I dropped my phone in water. You have to find a way to not have a phone anymore that isn't cutting the phone lines.
What was the Liv Tyler one we talk about all the time?
Strangers.
So I don't know what possessed me, but I watched the trailer for it today.
I told you to watch it again.
Well, because I've seen the movie. I saw it in the theater, but for some reason today I just like wanted to be scared, so I watched the trailer.
I told you when I took back the power because I rewatched it and I was like, I'm not scared of this anymore.
Oh my! Well, we see the scene where like he comes into the room and somebody's thrown his phone into the fire. That's how they got around it then.
So little things like that.
Yeah, or like it takes place in the country, like Jeepers Creepers, where they're in the middle of nowhere and like the phones, there's no signal.
And like 10 times in the first 5 minutes, you hear people say, "Hey, how's your signal?" Right. Planting the seeds, the foreshadowing of like, "Oh no, my aunt says I never get service." That's why I like it up here because it's a nice escape from the busy city life.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, but also the storm. The storm could have cut the lines too.
I guess that's true. But the idea of like the cutting, it just feels so terrible.
It's very isolating and scary.
And it's premeditated. It's like it means that whatever the killer is going to do to these people is going to be fucking awful.
Yeah.
It's going to be bad enough that he wants the phone lines cut.
Absolutely. It's
terrifying.
So the phone lines were cut before 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Because that's when Michael's sister Sharon called and the phone just rang and rang and rang, which means that Missy and Mike's phone lines had been cut.
Yes.
So it happened all before 10:30 p.m.
And so the medical examiner determines that Mike was killed first. And they say by a debilitating blow to the head. And then, he says Missy was tied up and abused, that the offender spent way more time with her, meaning that if this was a targeted attack, she was the
Missy
intended
was the target.
victim. Yeah.
So we don't have any leads on that because no one would want to hurt Missy. She doesn't have any enemies, no shitty friends, no like history. Like she came from a town where she was like in with some bad people and now she's not, like none of that.
Yeah.
So they go back to Michael because of his quote business dealings. And now we spend 15 minutes wondering if Michael is part of the cartel.
Well, it's not a crazy theory because we learned that
while Missy is busy with PTA meetings, Mike spends a lot of time flying back and forth to Central America.
That raised our suspicions because there had been some smuggling activity coming in from Belize to the Florida Keys. So we started on that angle, trying to nail down his contacts and who he'd been in business with.
In the 80s and 90s was like, quote, the drug capital of the world or whatever.
And I have to say, the cartel is vicious.
Well,
like there are no rules when you're messing with the cartel. So like the fact that, I'm sorry to say this, like this is going to be really shitty, but like the fact that Missy was pregnant, like the cartel doesn't give a shit. They will kill your entire family.
Yes. And like the sexual assault on Missy, the fact that they killed her and the unborn baby, they're saying that like it has the hallmarks of something as bloody as what the cartel would do. This guy's got a plane. He lives in Miami. He's going to South America a lot.
And normally we're just like, oh, that's insane. But like, you're right here because it's not that far-fetched. And the point is like, it makes more sense here than it does like someone dealing weed in Ohio.
Right.
Because remember there was that documentary where it was like, it's probably the cartel. It's definitely not the cartel in
Ohio.
that case. But Miami, the private plane, it's the 90s.
It's a thing that some locals were doing. Like the cops are even saying it was an easy way for local people to make good money sometimes.
Yeah. So Michael went to Belize
a week before the murders
to buy a plane.
We finished each other's sentences.
Sandwiches? So the cops went to Belize.
Yeah. To meet with the president.
The president.
I was like, what?
The president. And the president confirms that nothing shady was going on.
Although investigators confirmed that Mike did buy the plane legally from the government, they learned that the plane has a shady history. It was used by the cartel for drug smuggling. Did Mike anger the cartel because he bought their plane?
We were working that angle for a while, thinking that maybe Mike had made somebody mad down in Belize.
We actually went out to see if anybody had been hanging around, giving Michael a bad time.
None of that panned out.
The cops are trying really hard to make this about the cartel. They're trying to make fetch happen. It's dead end after dead end after dead end.
Yeah.
And there's also Michael's brother, Jim.
Yeah, if it's not the cartel, it's got to be Michael's brother.
But also, like, they suddenly remember that they should look at family members first and work their way out.
Not the cartel and the president of Belize?
Like,
are they doing this out of order?
We work up to the cartel. Right. You start immediately, and you work your way out.
Yeah.
Hello? We're going right to the cartel.
To the president of Belize.
To the president of Belize.
Like, oh my God. believe it or not, they are going right down.
I mean, ridiculous. So Jim is here.
Somebody heard my joke.
But he's with it. What happened?
I mean, a terrible pun of a joke. Believe it or not.
Oh, believe it or not. Can you believe? Somewhere Jonathan Van Ness is like, hey.
Oh my God.
So Jim is here with us today, but James is his lower third.
Yeah, and so Jim has been with us the whole time, and he loved his brother as much as anybody else. He is like as surprised as anybody that they're looking at him.
Well, because they haul him in and they're like, we know you're involved in the cartel too, James.
Well,
like, you're caught. Just spill the beans. We know everything, Jim. And he's like, what?
Because in fairness to the cops, which is a thing I guess I'm saying for the first time, the brother, Mike, was buying the plane for Jim. So you know what I mean? Jim did give Mike all the cash in the world to go down to Belize and buy the plane.
Right. That's like 2 + 2 = pretzel. How are we getting into the cartel?
I'm just saying, hey, they're trying to figure it out.
They're like, James, we know what you did. And he's like, grieving, mourning, trying to make sense of this tragedy.
And he does like more than willingly give them DNA. He just wants to do anything that can be done to solve this thing.
The lady she's a woman in my head. The scientist sees the DNA coming down the hallway. They're like, she's like, I can tell from here it's not Jim.
Right.
He's eliminated that quickly.
Totally.
She's like, don't even waste my time. It's not him. I can see it from here.
And Sharon comes back to say, like,
I kept reminding them that my brother was a very well-respected business person, and he wasn't about to jeopardize his future with his family and his child.
He's got a family. He's got a kid coming. Like, he's not going to mess around with the cartel. He flies because he loves it. He's been doing it since he was 14, much to the chagrin of Jillian Pasquale.
I just want it to be safe.
I will say, it is weird when we're on a flight and the pilot comes out to say hello. That's very nice. But when the pilot looks like they're like 18, which happens a lot.
Oh, really? I've never seen. Every pilot to me looks like Tim Walz. Like, they just look like a dad.
I wish.
You know?
I wish. The only time I'm ever sure we're going to get there is when it's a woman. And
I've
that's
never
the
had a
only
woman
time.
pilot come out and say hi.
Oh, but like sometimes she'll make the announcement, and when she makes the announcement, I'm always like, oh God, we're going to be okay. Whoops, are you a lesbian? Then we're going to be super.
Oh my God,
we're going to be
so
okay.
good.
We're going to get there early.
We're so good.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God, I love it.
Anyway.
But Sharon is saying, like, look, you spoke to all my brother's associates. There are no issues, no drama. And she goes, can we please focus? Because Missy was violently sexually assaulted. There's something else here.
Yes.
Can we please focus on all the right things here and not the goddamn cartel?
Well, guess what they do? They bring in a woman. Her name is Dale. Yes, thank God.
Dale Hinman, she's a profiler, and she is like, I'm here to figure out what happened, why did it happen, and what kind of person would do something like this.
What kind of person would kill a woman who was 8 months pregnant?
Yeah.
I mean, smells like cartel to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, that kind of is, it's making more and more sense the more we talk about it.
We gotta move out. We gotta move from the cartel.
All right, stop the cartel. Okay.
Stop.
You get scared when we talk about the cartel.
I'm not going anywhere near the cartel.
I know. There's been a couple of times that you've like moved the microphone away and been like, girl, stop it. Stop it.
They will kill you over a soccer game. Or football. If they honestly.
Call it the right thing, girl. We are in danger.
I know.
We are in danger.
But like, they will kill you and your whole family and anyone you've ever
I know.
There are no rules with the cartel.
Girl, I know.
Watch 5 seconds of Narcos, you'll be scared straight.
Fam, if you could see the look on her face.
Don't fuck with the cartel, man.
Okay, all right, moving on.
So Dale says, look, this was obviously a very brutal crime. Now she's putting this profile together. She says this guy has a history of burglary.
I think it's really likely that the offender had done surveillance, had looked at the house, had seen her, found her to be a desirable victim, but he didn't bring anything with him to affect the crime. He was apparently so skilled in his burglary practices that he relied on what was there in the house.
He's going to find whatever is at his disposal and subdue this huge dude?
Well, they say, because Dale says this guy was obsessed with Missy. So he wasn't thinking about anything else. And she says he had to have been obsessed with Missy, and he's local, probably hiding in plain sight.
And I'll tell you, when we meet the killer, he's enormous. He's like the only guy in town bigger than Mike.
Well, Sharon, the sister, has some information.
Yeah.
The night before the murders, Missy tells her that there's this fucking certified creep of a gas station attendant who's endlessly, constantly, relentlessly hitting on Missy.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is this a story that Sharon told the cops 40 times, but nobody fucking listened to her?
Yes.
That is
I'm
the
guessing.
sense I'm getting.
I'm guessing.
Because I'm like, why are we just learning it? Like, I know it's not on Sharon. Like, I'm sure Sharon was the first thing. The night before the murder, this fucking creep at the gas station.
You want to know my also very cynical take?
Yeah.
This has to be a 42-minute episode. So they're going to tell us about the handyman who wasn't involved and the brother. Like, we're learning about this now because it's about 20 minutes in.
But it still has all the hallmarks of like a story that Sharon's been screaming and no one's listening to her.
Because this has been going on for a long time, not just the night before the murder. It's like, and relentlessly this guy was harassing her. She was totally creeped out. She told him to stop.
Yeah.
And Missy just wants to go to the fucking gas station. Can we have anything?
I know.
So this guy, this creep, his name is Thomas Overton.
Yes.
And he worked at the gas station that Missy went to every single day. And he has a record.
He is known to local law enforcement as a cat burglar.
We knew about Thomas Overton. He had been on our radar as a burglar for a while, and we were watching him pretty close.
Overton matched all of the characteristics. He'd been in prison for armed robbery, he was a burglar in the area, and he would be a likely suspect.
He also matched a lot of the things on the profiler's list, like he's an experienced burglar, he went to prison for armed robbery, he's local to the area, and once again, certified creep.
Now, despite the fact that this guy had never been convicted of homicide or rape before, authorities are suspicious of him. And why are they suspicious of him? Because they believe that he killed a woman a couple years earlier.
1 year earlier. A year earlier.
Right here in the same community. Her name is Rachel Surratt.
Yeah, she lived in Key Largo. She was murdered. She also told her friends that she was creeped out by this guy at the gas station.
Yes.
So Rachel was a missing person in the Upper Keys, they call it. Her father, here's the story. The story, oh my God.
I know.
Her father dropped her off at the movies, right?
This guy also worked at the movie theater.
So 2 weeks later, her body was found in the woods.
Yeah.
But Rachel had told her father about this Thomas Overton guy who was working at the movie theater at the time, and he was pulling the same shit with Rachel like he was pulling with Missy, not taking no for an answer, not taking a hint, just harassing her.
So just to be clear, this guy Overton works at the gas station during the day and the movie theater at night.
Right. And when they found Rachel, she was in a tarp and there were popcorn kernels in the tarp.
Like movie theater popcorn.
And he, to end, this creep.
We had interviewed him, and he was cocky. He says, well, yeah, I was probably the last one to see her alive, and then kind of smiled.
There is no DNA evidence to link Thomas Overton to the murder of Rachel Surratt.
Says he was the last person to see her alive. They ask him for a DNA sample. He says no. They got to let him go. They've got nothing on this guy.
And remember, this is 1990, so there's no biological evidence to collect.
But I'm like, is there no like camera surveillance of like her in the parking lot, her walking out?
No.
Like, did anybody see them together? Like, there's got to have been something else.
Yeah, I mean, they're not telling us for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But we learned that Missy and Rachel had similar physical characteristics. So they're wondering like, oh, fuck. I hate to even say this term, but like, did he have a type?
I was going to say the same thing. Can't we come up with a different word?
But also like I get it. I know it's like that's what I don't know, but it can't be ignored. You know what I mean?
No,
that
I'm
they
just
look
saying
so
like there should be a word for when a murderer likes or is attracted to the same kind of person that isn't type. Because type just I don't know.
Because you want to say that in your life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like people
use
it in a normal term.
In a normal way. Yeah.
So it feels like we're not taking care of the story.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it feels like we're too casual about
it. It's gross. I just hate it.
Well, fuck that guy. How about that?
Yeah.
Should I say that?
Yeah, that's perfect.
So the theory is that just like Rachel, this creep was obsessed with Missy.
And was stalking her.
And the gas station is super close to her house. So
Yeah.
he was she's going there every day. He's hitting on her all the time. She's really uncomfortable. Now the cops say...
Thomas had been hitting on Missy as she was getting gas on more than one occasion, and she kept shutting him down. And last time, we understand that she was a little bit rude and saying, no, I wouldn't go, I'm pregnant, I wouldn't go with you. No way, no how.
What he should have said was she was more forceful the
She was
last
setting
time.
boundaries and this creep kept crossing
Yes.
them. She wasn't like, can we just be annoyed?
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Like my analogy is that like bears can't murder people, they can only have dinner. Women who are being harassed can't be rude. It's not possible for them to be rude.
On a daily basis, all she's trying to do is an
Get her
annoying
coffee.
errand.
Yeah.
That, she's at the fucking gas station, and I'm just so, enraged at... No, she wasn't being fucking rude.
No!
He's being rude. How
Yes.
many day after day
I know,
after
I
day
know.
after day, and she had, this is her gas station. It's not her... she shouldn't have to fucking leave.
Yeah.
He's not taking the hint. He's not taking no for an answer.
Or he's not taking the direct, no for an answer.
And,
yeah.
and I'm also just so, it's such a misogynistic thing that, we can't feel any negative feeling without, well, that was a little rude.
Uh-huh.
Can I be annoyed with something without also being rude?
It's also just, it's in the way that he's saying it, because I think he's trying to say what you're saying.
He is.
He's trying to say, she was more forceful that day. I don't think
Or
he thinks...
or the killer
Yeah.
took it as rude.
Right,
Is
exactly.
what he's trying
Yes,
to say.
Yes.
But it's are we allowed to be bothered, or is that just everybody else? Can
I
we be
know.
bothered, period?
Yeah.
Or is it bothered and she was a little rude?
I know.
Ooh,
I know.
that makes me crazy.
I know, and and the thing is, it's her rejection of him that breaks him. It's her rejection of him, and it's
because here we are again.
Exactly.
Here we are again.
I know.
So the cops speak to this piece of shit. He denies everything.
Yeah.
He refuses.
Won't give DNA.
Won't give it a DNA, and there's no way for the cops to get it.
Yeah, they've got to get him on a felony. That's the only way they can get a search warrant to get his DNA.
Right. So, but they're laser focused on this guy.
Which, yeah, and they that one guy Mark is saying if this guy was pulled over for running a red light, I'd be the guy to go down and give him the ticket.
They're tailing him. They're waiting for him to screw up. They're trying to connect him to the case. Now, 6 months go by.
Yeah.
6 months into the investigation, there's no movement on this guy. But then at 2 a.m, he has a run-in with the cops.
Yeah.
He's riding his bike home from a party. Imagine this asshole at a party.
Ugh.
He probably crashed the party.
Uh-huh.
He's probably
wasn't
that
invited.
weirdo creep, you know, sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
So he's riding his bike home from a party, and they run his ID, and they see that he's an ex-con.
Yes.
But again, they had no reason to keep him, so they just let him go.
But then they learn.
And about 15 minutes later, there was a distress call from a lady that was in the house. She was scared stiff that somebody was still in the house, and she was afraid if she moved that she would get killed. Written on her bathroom mirror with her lipstick was, "Get a dog, get an alarm. Next time you won't be so lucky." And she had a stuffed parrot that was in her living room. He ripped the head off of that and laid it next to her in bed.
He also ripped the head off of a stuffed animal she had. It's just completely terrorizing, right?
Yeah.
It has to be Tom. It has to be this creep.
Right.
It has to be the same guy.
They couldn't have, they didn't know. And they stopped him, basically right outside this woman's house.
And they're like, wait, what? They can't connect him.
Yeah.
But then he finally gets arrested for trespassing because he's walking through the cemetery in the middle of the night.
Looking fucking crazy. And when they arrest him, he's got a gym bag full of pry bars, wire cutters, screwdrivers, a fucking knife.
And a mask and gloves.
Yes.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
He kept notes.
Yes.
He kept notes of Missy and Mike's house. He had a description of the house. He had logs about, I'm just getting chills.
I know.
He had logs about their comings and goings. He is everything they said he was.
Yes.
He was stalking Missy.
And we'll learn later, all he was doing was waiting for a night of a storm.
Right.
He was
All he
waiting.
was
That's
doing.
what he does.
So they can't, once again, get a DNA sample from him. So because trespassing in the cemetery isn't a felony, so they can't force him.
And he bonds out and he takes off.
He goes back to Tavernier Key, which is his home base. But I mean, dear listener, he's just out in the world.
Right. And at this point, residents know. At this point, the scuttlebutt around town, people know this is
they
probably
know he's the town
guy.
creep. Of
Exactly.
course.
And everyone's frustrated. The family's frustrated because they know he's the guy, but they just can't get him. What they need is DNA. But it's you literally can't do that thing where you take the coffee cup because it's not admissible in court. You got to get a court order for the DNA.
So this guy just gets to live. And what about this
and
poor
probably
woman?
harm other people.
Yeah. And what about this poor woman who he broke into her house? Is there any protection for her? Probably not. 5 years. It takes 5 years. So now we jump to 1996 and they get a break.
We got a call from a friend of Thomas Overton's who said that he was planning a burglary.
Thomas made a statement to the informant. When I do this kind of stuff, I like to do it when it's thunder and lightning out because the cops don't come out. That's exactly how the weather was when Mike and Missy were murdered.
It's also one of his friends that called.
It's his friend.
What? A, who's fucking friends with this guy? And B, why is he telling his friend what he's gonna do? And then C, what did he do to the friend that made the friend so mad that he called the cops?
Or maybe he's I just overheard this. I don't think he's actually. Clearly, he's not a friend.
Right,
I mean, it feels to me like the whole town has been counting the days for something like this to happen.
And thank fucking God.
So
because the police do a sting. They stake out the house.
because the informant says, look, this creep is doing what he always does. He's waiting for a storm.
Yes.
So that's exactly what happened when Missy and Mike were murdered. So there's a storm coming, and the informant's like, you have to be... Tonight's the night. So it's October 6th, 1996. The cops go and catch him in the act. He is literally cutting the phone wires as they are arresting him.
It's insane.
So
he's insane.
Finally charged with a felony, which means they can finally force him to give his DNA.
But it's going to take 8 weeks, they said. And to which I was like, I misheard that as like 8 weeks to get the results back. No, 8 weeks just to get the court order to get his DNA.
Right. So the cops ask him a few questions. They use their time to question him.
Yeah.
He admits to some things. He denies others.
So they ask him about Missy and Mike, and he clams up. And he says, I know what you're doing. I'm not saying a word. Like, I have nothing to do with that. I don't know anything.
Then they threw him in this little solitary confinement square box where they had a hidden camera, and he started to cry. That's when one of the investigators told me, look, he's crying because he knew he'd been caught.
He starts to cry.
He starts to cry.
Oh, he's caught. So
yeah.
while they're waiting for so he's like in custody. They're waiting for the DNA results. This guy gets his hands on a razor and slices his own neck. Wait, not to kill himself.
Yeah.
But to get himself into the hospital, like pretend he's weak and then overpower the people in the hospital.
Yeah.
Dear listener, that is not what happened.
No.
This idiot left his DNA all over that cell. The cops don't need the court order anymore because he did it. Stay stupid.
I know.
Fucking idiot.
Oh, and his plan didn't work either. They knew that was his plan, so they just brought the EMTs to the jail.
To him.
I know.
As they're like, thanks for actually too much DNA.
And oh my God. But I will tell you that like when you see this guy, he's huge. He looks like he's like 6'6".
Now imagine going to the gas station every day or trying to go to the fucking movies, and this guy is being really imposing and threatening and harassing you, even if it's like muttering something under his breath. He's 6'6". Do you know what I mean?
He's so broad. He's like, when you see him, you're like, if you surprised Mike in his own house and came up behind him, then you probably could have subdued that guy.
Sure.
You know?
So he's arrested and charged with the murders of Missy and Mike MacIvor and their baby Kyle.
Yeah.
So 2 years after that, the trial starts. And they make him, because he's like gigantic.
Yeah. Oh my
and a violent.
We've seen this before.
Yeah. And a violent offender.
Yeah.
They make him wear one of those stun belts. So if he moves, they will stun him if he tries to escape.
We saw this in, it was
one of our other bonus
was it Ed
Datelines.
Kemper, like the huge guy?
No. That was way too long
Too early. Yeah.
But this was in a bonus Dateline where someone was wearing like a stun belt.
He was so big that they were afraid he was going to like make a break for it. They put him in a stun belt.
One of our bonus episodes.
Imagine being the guy who's like, you know what we need to invent? A stun belt.
A stun belt.
For these enormous murderers.
I mean, who are going to just like leap over the table and kill someone who's testifying against them. So what comes out in court is like, yes, he was stalking them. He targeted Missy.
He was waiting for them to come home from a Lamaze class.
Yep. He waited for the storm because the storm is the perfect cover.
Yeah.
He is found guilty.
Wherefore it is hereby ordered and adjudged that for the first-degree murder of Michael MacIvor, you, Thomas Mitchell Overton, be sentenced to death. That for the first-degree murder of Susan Michelle MacIvor, you, Thomas Mitchell Overton, be sentenced to death. That for the crime of killing an unborn child, you, Thomas Mitchell Overton, be sentenced to the maximum sentence allowed by law, 15 years imprisonment.
He's sentenced to death. He's still on death row.
He gets death for each, for Missy and for Mike, and 15 years for baby Kyle.
And what about Rachel? I guess this was, I guess, the case that they could get. They couldn't charge him for Rachel, but he obviously killed Rachel too.
And at the sentencing, he's smiling and waving at Mike and Missy's family.
At Sharon, the sister.
Like laughing at them. Yeah.
So again, like I feel, like it's not really a hot take, but like this really destroys, like the ripple effects of something like this happening destroys a family, because they say that Sharon and Michael's parents died early.
Of a broken heart.
Like they died young. And, because Mike and Missy were so like loved by their community, there was like a tree planting and a memorial at Missy's school. And imagine like also being a third grader. And then you hear,
know.
I mean, just like the levels of... Because this guy is a piece of shit.
I know. And the waste of life of it all.
Yeah.
Fuck
this guy.
Fuck this guy.
God.
Oh, girl, we did Florida Man Murders, season 1, episode 2.
Is that rude? Talking about a piece of shit on my own podcast?
Are you afraid of being rude all of a sudden?
No, because of that joke we made before.
Oh, no. You were perfectly not
great.
rude.
Thanks.
Fam, join the Facebook group. It's the True Crime Obsessed podcast discussion group. We've got like 52,000 people in there now. We're hanging out, having fun.
We are hanging out, having fun.
We are. And over on the Patreon, there's like over 400 and something full ad-free bonus episodes.
Speaking of fun.
Which is also where we do our drag bingo once a month.
Yeah.
Which is just getting more and more and more and more fun. Every month.
It's off the rails in the best way possible.
It really is.
It's on the rails when it needs to be. It's off the rails when it needs to be. It's so fun.
It's perfect. What are we doing next, girl?
All right, so because this is a Thursday bonus ep, tomorrow on Patreon, we are doing the second episode of The Man with 1,000 Kids.
Oh my God, it's outrageous.
We're right smack in the middle of that. And Tuesday on the regular feed, it's our second episode of our Lacey Peterson two-parter coverage.
Yes. Also, our interview with the director, Sky Borgman, is also live right now on Patreon as well. If you want some behind the scenes, some more information, and just answers to your burning questions.
Yeah.
And we love you, fam.
We love you so much.
All right, bye.
Stay safe out there, everyone. We love you. Bye.
All right, bye.